Hello, good morning and welcome to the preview of the weekend racing. A couple of interesting cards. Obviously Gold Coast, Hawkesbury stand alone, so they're not bad meetings. They switched to Belmont in WA, so that usually lends itself to a couple of results. So we'll be keeping an eye out there. Looking at the card, there's no jackpots or anything of any great interest. There's a TT jackpot in New Zealand. We may consider it. Looks impossible with 22 runners, 18 runners. But we'll have a closer look at that tomorrow and see whether it's a viable option to even consider. If we think we can get into the hunt somewhere, we'll have a go. It's, as I say, going to Belmont, first few races, not much chop there. Probably the best race is the last. I think there's a bit of value here. Now, what tends to happen is all the things that have been at Ascot that have been front running, they go to Belmont and they all get swamped. So we're looking for back markers here, realistically, to get over the top of them. There's a bit of speed in this race. I think there's two that I've found. One was a terrific run first up, and obviously the switch to Belmont's going to suit it, and that is number 9, Zuccaros. It's no fancy price. It'll probably be 3 or 4 to 1. Rock bottom price for me, but it's still reasonable. The other one is number 7, Mr. Magic. Terrific trial, ran fast time and bolted in. It's drawn wide, so he's going to have to drag it back. It's about 7 or 8 to 1. I think they're probably the best two for me from Belmont. So Belmont race 8, I'll bracket 7 and 9. We go to Caulfield. Track's expected to be slow there. Don't think much of the card really. Race 5, this probably looks one of the better races. There appears to be a few winning chances here. Means a lot. It's getting close now. Can find a bit of trouble, this horse, but from barrier 3, Weir's in huge form. Rurilla's riding well. At 6 or 7 to 1, I think it's the right price for this horse. So I'm happy to lean towards it. I've got number 10 in as a chance at around 25 or 33 to 1. The wet ground's the biggest concern. If it gets through it, its first up run was a bit better than it looks on paper, and it found a bit of trouble. So prior to that, its trials were terrific. So just keep an eye on this one. Gouchy, no big favours here. He's sort of a light of old days, but still rides reasonable. Bells of Troy, first up. Now, its first up card, reasonable. Should handle the ground okay. It's obviously better suited longer, but mile first up. With the wet ground, it's probably going to feel like 1800 or 2000, so it's working well. Well, I'll include it. I've got 6 on top from 10 and 3. Race 6, interesting race here. Luton Run. Now, this has been scratched a couple of times. They've been waiting for the right sort of race. We're 54 kilos here. Doesn't appear to be a lot of speed. They scratched it midweek, where I thought it had a good winning chance, and they've stuck it in this race. Now, you look at its first up card, 5 for 0, but most of those have been on dry ground. This horse is a pure, slow, heavy tracker. That's it. So it's going to get the ideal conditions tomorrow. From barrier 3, I think it's certainly worth some consideration. I think at 7 or 8 or 10 to 1, you'd probably want to be getting 8 or 10 to 1 to be jumping in on this one. If you can get that sort of price, then I'd say no problem. It's worth a risk. Hannaford, terrific run. first up, and now it's going to get the much better track conditions. So it's the saver for me. I've actually backed this one at 21. I'm waiting for the other one to see if it gets to the right price. But bracket 7 and 11, Caulfield race 6, Hannaford at a price from 7, Luton Run. Race 7, Freshwater Storms, trialled well and looks ready to go in a race like this. Got the ideal track conditions. I wouldn't be taking a silly price about it. I'm waiting for this one. I think the right price is around 8 or 10 to 1. If we can get that sort of price, I'm happy to include. If not, then it wins. Well, bad luck, let it win. African Heat. Now, this hasn't had a run for almost 2 years. Trial was really good. But it's not my cup of tea backing horses coming back after 2 years. It's had a series of trials and well spaced. So it's a dangerous horse. If it was to run up to its best, it'll kill these. But the form is 2 years old. Slow, heavy, perfect. I think, I mean, I've backed it at 50s and only purely on spec because of the price, because I don't think it should be 50 to 1. I would have to include it. So that's it for the Caulfield for race 7. Number 2, if we can get 7 or 8 to 1, and I'll back number 5, African Heat, at a big price. Don't like the last. We go to the Gold Coast. Reasonable card here. There's a couple of good races. There should be a bit of value. Fish around here, you can find a bit of value. I've gone for my first one to race 4. I think this is a pretty reasonable race. Now, the wet track's going to make it interesting here. And I think you're going to get, I don't think there'll be anything sort of super short here. So I think Quest for Peace, it's been waiting for this type of race. The wet ground's going to help it. I've given it a chance, a good winning chance. I've backed number 18, Total Response. Now, I went for this first up, and he settled at the back of the field and ran on okay. Wet track will help. I'm not sure whether it'll get a run. If it gets into the field, I'm happy to be on it at a massive price. It was $100, so at that price, they're always going to get me for something. If they scratch it, well, I'll get it back. So, interesting race, plenty of chances. 7 and 18, I've bracketed them together. 18 purely on spec because of the massive price. Race 5, interesting horse from WA here, Platinum Rocker. Now, this got beaten in the Railway Stakes by Lucky Grey. If Lucky Grey was in this race with 59 kilos, it'd be 5s on. So the only thing, of course, is the wet ground, completely unknown. Don't see too many wet tracks in WA, but it trialled well before they carted it over there. So I don't know whether you're going to get any fancy price about this horse. Shouldn't be a fancy price in a race like this. And I think it's certainly the quality horse, but I wouldn't be taking under 5 or 6 or 7 to 1 a horse that's 59 kilos unknown on wet ground. But it is definitely the best horse. We go to race 6, good race. This is one of the better races of the day. I think the Kiwi horse, Roll Out the Carpet, got a bit of ability to this horse. Should have won last start. And from barrier 1's going to get a beautiful run. Duplessis rides well. The Kiwi horses go terrific here at this carnival every year. They set them for this. Then perhaps not quite up to the quality of Melbourne, but they're certainly well up to this. I think this has got a terrific winning chance. Must go in. Choice Pro, interesting run first up. This will go much better here. Barrier 15, absolutely no favours for it there, but should also get a big price. I backed one at a big price based on the wet ground, Rothera. First up run was good. Too short for it. I think this is probably still a little bit too short, the 1300, but at 60 to 1, I was happy to have something on it. I think the wet ground's going to make it more like a 14 or 1500 metre race, so that's going to play into its hands. Got a good chance, purely and simply based on the wet ground. Had a good carnival here last year. Runs its best races here on wet ground, so it's well over the odds. 12 for me from 9 and 13. Don't really like race 7 as a betting race. The value for me is Mr. O'Kieran. Again, another one that goes terrific on the wet track. We went for this first up, couldn't find it, got tailed out and didn't really ride it out. Had a couple of looks at the replays. It was just dead. They would have earmarked something up here in Queensland for this. The wet ground's going to help. It was 16 to 1 last night, so I thought that was fair enough. I was happy to back it at that sort of price in Melbourne. I'm certainly happy to back it up here in Queensland. So Gold Coast race 7, number 5, Mr. O'Kieran. The last race is a pretty tough sort of event. Don't really like it. If the 10's trial terrific, Unqua. If it runs up to the trial, it'll win. But I don't think you're going to get any price about this. It's a pretty smart horse, this, and I certainly wouldn't be jumping in to take anything stupid about it. If you can get 6 or 7 to 1, that's about its right price. Below that, I don't think so. Not for me. I found a couple there that from track work and trials. Number 3, Whiskey All Round. Number 13, Natural Dancer. I think from the good barrier draw has got a good chance. So I've included those as probably next best. And Safeguard, the top weight. I gave this a chance first up and found trouble, and that was the end of it. So I'd include it as well, I suppose. 10 on top from 13, 1, 3. The Hawkesbury standalone meeting, another good meeting here. This has grown in strength over the years, and I think there's a couple of decent races there tomorrow. Probably later in the card, maybe from race 5, we sort of have some interest. Plucky Bell, it'll get back, but maybe not as far back. It's got a good winning chance. There's a bit of speed in this race, so I think there's a chance. I've had something on number 12, Buggeroo, off a barrier trial. Just pulled it up in the trial, gave it a little hit out. Pretty smart horse, this, on its day. This is, the big field. It'll get back, but at a big price at 33 to 1, I think you're entitled to have something on it. So, in a very tough race, purely based on price, number 12, Hawkesbury race 5, number 12, Bugaboo. Plucky Bell, obviously hard to beat from the draw. If you can get it through the field, it'll be storming home. Race 6, Full of Spirit was red hot first up, just dragged it back to last. Made a run mid-race, out very wide. Going to be much better suited here, and they probably earmarked it for this race, so be very wary of this one. I think this is on its Kiwi form. This has got a terrific chance in a race like this. This is running Group 1 level. Most of these are not up to Group 1 level. So I think I was happy to back this at $21. I think that's way over the odds. Seems well weighted here at 54 kilos. So Hawkesbury, race 6, number 3, Full of Spirit. Not keen on race 7. Race 8, a couple from the trials. Golden Sunshine. If it runs up to the trial, it's got a chance. 8 or 10 to 1 is probably a fair price for it. Bit of speed in this race, so that's going to help. Number 10, Inside Job. Now, this is going to need a little bit of luck from the barrier. It'll get well back, but it'll be storming home. So I've bracketed those two, both at around 10 or 12 to 1. Number 8, Golden Sunshine. Number 10, Inside Job. We go to, Morphettville, typical. They've got a couple of decent races there, but never really been that involved in betting in Morphettville, so I don't think we'll bother starting now. Riccarton, heavy track. There's a couple late in the day. Can Go West. Riccarton race 8. It's ready to win. Number 7, Can Go West. Got the perfect conditions now. Goes good. This track, this distance, heavy ground. So Riccarton race 8. Number 7, Can Go West. We go to Tiarapa. Some big fields there. For me, the last at Tiarapa, I think, number 1, Addictive Habit. Now this very, very soft win last start. Found the wet ground, which is what it was waiting for. It's got the wet ground again. Maybe not quite wet enough. If the track goes to slow heavy, then I will back it. If it doesn't go to slow heavy, I'll probably let it go around. So just keep your eye out on the track conditions. Don't be fooled by them putting up dead tracks. Have a look at what times they're running. There's a couple of lead-up races there at a mile, race 4 and race 9. If they don't break 36, then the track's not dead. So just keep an eye out on those 2 races, and that'll give you a bit of a guide coming into this. At this track, they break 36 very regularly when the track is not that bad. If they run times over 136, then this track is slow, and then in we go into the last, Addictive Habit. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Good luck on the weekend. We'll be looking at Shah 10, obviously, on Sunday, and there's a TT jackpot that we will be playing. Good luck to everybody.